Okay, go ahead and pause here and do the homework check. Chapter 0, Lessons 7 and 8 are going to be combined. Chapter 0, Lesson 7 is all about perimeter, and 8 is about area. And so we're going to do them together. Okay, first thing we have to talk about is what is the difference between perimeter and area? So we find the perimeter of a figure when we add up all the sides. So when I'm thinking of examples like this, it would be like if we were going to put a fence in our backyard, we would only have to measure how far outside of our backyard we would need in order to order fencing. So we would just take out how long is the north side, how long is the east and the west and the south, and then add those together to figure out how many feet of fencing we should buy. Area is the part of the figure on the inside. Just put the inside of the figure. So we would need that when we were going to take our backyard and order seed to replant our grass. So we'd have to figure out how much area does our entire backyard have, and then we would have to find that answer and then order our seed from there. So perimeter for all figures is the same. You just add up all the sides no matter what your shape is. The problem with area is each figure has its own formula. So go ahead and pause here and try to think of any of these formulas you know. Okay, so the formula for the area of a square and a rectangle is actually the same, and it's length times width. And we just usually write L times W. If you're thinking about a triangle, if you think about it, a triangle is really half of a square or half of a rectangle. And so that formula is half. And you can use either length times width, or a lot of people know it as half of base times height. For a circle, it's pi times radius squared. And we have to real quick talk about radius versus diameter. So the radius of a circle is a line from the center to a side. The diameter of the circle is all the way across the circle from side to side through the center. So the radius is halfway, and the diameter is all the way across a circle. For a semicircle, that means half a circle. So that one is 1/2 pi r squared. And you obviously know a quarter is a fourth, and so a quarter is 1/4 pi r squared. All right, number 1 says we have a square whose side length is each 12. And it wants me to find the perimeter. And I find the perimeter by adding up all the sides. So I can do 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12 in my calculator, or 12 times 4, which is 48. The second one is a rectangle who is 7 by 3. And since it's a rectangle, that means the bottom is 7 and the left side is also 3. So 7 plus 3 plus 7 plus 3 gives me 20. Next one, a triangle. That was awkward. Whose sides are 5, 11, and 10. And so 5 plus 11 plus 10 is 26. And the last one is a pentagon, which is a 5-sided figure. And each side is 5. So you can add them all up or do 5 times 5, which is 25. Okay, another formula we have to add into our notebooks here is for the circumference of a circle. So when we try to find the circumference, which is kind of like the perimeter of a circle, it has a different formula because obviously a circle is round, so it doesn't have sides. So in order to find the circumference of a circle, we're going to do pi times diameter. Now remember, diameter is all the way across the circle, whereas radius is just halfway. So this first one says, so in this one we have a circle with a radius of 3, which is the halfway. So if the radius of that circle is 3, that means the diameter of that circle would then be 6. Because if 3 is halfway, then 6 is all the way across. And so we just take pi, which remember is the second key and then the exponent key on the right side of your calculator, times diameter, which is 6. And I had to use 3.14 because I don't have my big calculator. So it's going to be about 18.8. You might get 18.9 depending on if you use the pi button. And that's fine. On number 2, they say that the diameter is 10. So they give us everything we need. So we have pi times 10, which is 314 point something. Last one. Now this one's a little bit hard. A quarter circle. So this is the picture of a quarter circle whose radius is 7. So when we're finding the perimeter of this shape, we already know that half of it is 7 plus 7. But what we also need to add is this shape, this curve here, in order to get the whole perimeter. Now that's a curve. And so when we're thinking about like a curve of a circle, and we know that this is a quarter circle, what I'm going to do to only find that part is I'm going to do 1/4 of pi times the diameter, which is 14. Because if I do pi times diameter, that would give me the whole circumference. And I only want the blue quarter of it. And again, I got 14 because if the radius is 7, diameter is double that, which is 14. So 7 plus 1 divided by 4 in parentheses times pi times 14. It's about 25. Okay, here's some word problem perimeters. A volleyball court has a side length of 60 and a width of 30, which means this is also 60 and this is 30 and 30. What is the perimeter of the volleyball court? So I need to add up all the sides. So 60 plus 30 plus 30 plus 60 is 120 plus 180. The tire for a one-speed bicycle has a diameter of 13 inches. So I've got this bicycle tire whose diameter is 13. Find the distance traveled in one rotation. Well, the distance traveled, if I start counting here where the bike is on the ground and I do one pedal, it's going to go all the way around my circle once. So I know I'm looking for the circumference, which is pi times 13. So 3.14 times 13 is 40.8 about. You might have gotten 40.9 depending on if you use the pi button. And that's in one rotation. So if I want the distance for 3 rotations, I'm going to multiply that by 3 and I get 122.5. Now we're on to the area formulas. We have a triangle whose base is 13 and whose height is 15. And my formula for a triangle is half the base times the height. So I'm going to do 1/2 times 13 times 15, 97.5. The next one is a square whose everything is 6. But I'm doing the area, so I'm just going to do length times width, which is 36. The next one is a rectangle whose base is 5 and whose height is 2. Again, length times width, which is 10. A semicircle, which is a half circle. So half times pi times, they give me the radius, so I don't have to do any work with that. So I have half times pi times 7 squared. And how you put in 7 squared is you would do 7 and then push the exponent key that's on the right side of your calculator that looks like a kind of like an up arrow, and then push the 2. So in most calculators, the 83s, it'll look like this. And the other ones, it actually like puts a little box for you. And if you did it right, you got about 77. So there's 2 sections of homework here. The first one, the page P25, is for the lesson 7. And then the page P28 is the area ones for lesson 8.